Dear listeners, this is Secrets in the Smoke. Settle in. Breathe slow. And let the darkness do the talking. Have you ever stared into something so wrong, so fundamentally alien, that your brain simply refused to process it? Like your mind hit an invisible wall and just shut down. What if there are rules to reality we're not meant to question, rules that break you the moment you break them? And what if, one night, in a place forgotten by the rest of the world, someone did? Hi, my name is Mason. And I should have never said yes to that job. They called it Black Hollow Station, a cold, hollow echo of a name that matched the emptiness around it. Located deep in the Arctic wasteland, hundreds of miles from the nearest human settlement, it was a concrete mound buried in snow and silence. No roads. No towns. No signs of life. Just wind that howled like a mourning beast, and a sky that never blinked. They say silence is peaceful. But not here. Here, silence felt watchful. Like the earth had exhaled and was waiting to see if you'd flinch. I took the job out of desperation, pure and simple. My bank account was hanging by a thread, and when the listing appeared, it looked like salvation disguised as a job posting. Night surveillance operator, remote research station, 6 months, high pay. Sounded harmless enough. Sit in front of monitors. Drink some coffee. Get paid. The salary? Obscene. Double what I'd made in a year, plus room, board, and a guaranteed bonus. Too good, I realize now. Far, far too good. That should have been my first warning. But I was broke, and broke people don't ask enough questions. When I arrived, I expected some sort of welcoming orientation. Maybe a tour. What I got instead was a silent man waiting in the snow. He stood motionless outside the steel entrance, tall, bald, face like carved granite. His parka was bone white, stitched with a black insignia that looked like an eye inside a triangle. He didn't smile. Didn't shake my hand. Just said, in a voice so dry it might have flaked away in the cold, "We'll go over the rules first. That's the most important part." He handed me a laminated card. The letters were bold and red, like warnings scrawled in blood. Never open the observation room door between 1:11 a.m. and 2:47 a.m. If the hallway lights flicker, do not move. Hold your breath until they stop. At 3:03 a.m., check camera 6. If the room is empty, you're safe. If someone is standing there, do not look away until they vanish. If you hear knocking in the ventilation shafts, ignore it. Do not speak back. At 4:44 a.m., go to the main generator room. Count the humming sounds. There should be 5. Report any deviation. Never, under any circumstance, open the northern exit. I let out a weak laugh, expecting him to crack a grin. "Is this a joke?" I asked. He didn't even blink. "These are not suggestions, Mason. Break one, and you won't survive the night." The way he said it, like someone repeating a fact he'd watched unfold too many times, strangled the laughter in my throat. Still, I told myself it had to be some kind of psychological experiment. This was a research facility, right? Maybe I was the experiment. The first few nights passed without incident. The cameras fed me an endless loop of still, empty corridors. No movement. No noise. No surprises. Just the occasional gust of wind whining against the metal walls and the distant hum of generators churning through the Arctic dark. I followed the rules. Out of habit more than fear. Sip coffee. Watch screens. Wait, rinse, repeat. By night 5, I'd almost convinced myself the whole thing was a test, some elaborate boredom endurance trial. And then came night 6. It was 1:12 a.m. I remember the time exactly, because that's when the door handle to the observation room twitched. Not creaked. Not wiggled. Twitch, like a muscle spasm in metal. My blood turned to slush. Rule 1. I was past the danger time. I froze, cup halfway to my lips. The door handle rattled again. Just once more. Then silence. No footsteps. No retreating echo. Just nothing. At 1:34 a.m., the hallway lights started flickering. Rule 2. I stopped breathing. My throat constricted as if invisible hands had clamped shut around it. 10 seconds. Maybe less. But in that moment, time lost all meaning. My heartbeat pounded so hard I was sure the sound alone would get me killed. When the flickering stopped, I gasped like I'd clawed my way out of a coffin. Still no movement on the cameras. Still no noise. But something had changed. The air felt wrong. Like the station had noticed me. And then the clock ticked to 3:03 a.m. That's when everything changed. The monitor's soft glow lit up the room as I turned to camera 6, just like the rule commanded. It showed the same storage room I'd seen a dozen times before, white walls, metal shelves lined with labeled crates, and a flickering ceiling bulb that buzzed like an insect caught in glass. At first, it was empty. And then, he was there. No movement. No sound. No transition. Just a man, suddenly in the dead center of the room. Standing. Frozen. Facing the camera like he'd been waiting. Watching. Or worse, knowing. His mouth hung wide open. But not like he was screaming, no sound came out. It was just open, like his jaw had disconnected and he'd forgotten how to fix it. His eyes, my God, his eyes. They bulged like something behind them was trying to get out. No blinking. No twitch. Just raw, silent panic radiating from every inch of his face. And he was staring. Right at me. Or through me, I couldn't tell which was worse. My muscles locked. My skin crawled like ants were burrowing beneath it. My throat dried up, my sweat turned cold, and my heart thudded like a war drum in my ears. But I remembered the rule. Do not look away. So I stared. My eyes stung. My vision blurred. My spine screamed to turn away. But I didn't. Couldn't. And then, he was gone. Not a step, not a fade. One frame he was there, the next, nothing. Like he'd been erased. That was the moment it hit me. These weren't rules. They were rituals. And breaking one wasn't an accident, it was a death sentence. I wanted to leave. I wanted to scream, to throw my badge on the floor and tell Ellis I was done. But that option didn't exist. The chopper only came once a month. I had 3 weeks left. 3 long, cold, blood-curdling weeks. And if I walked out before my contract ended? No paycheck. No transportation. No guarantee I'd even make it through the snow. So I stayed. And the next night, I followed the rules like they were holy scripture. At exactly 4:44 a.m., I made my way to the generator room. Just like Rule 5 said. The room smelled like burning ozone and old copper. The generators thrummed in the dark like sleeping beasts. I closed my eyes and listened to those hums. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then, nothing. My stomach turned to ice. The silence wasn't quiet, it was active. It pressed against my eardrums like a held breath, waiting for me to flinch. And then, a whisper. Help. Soft. Fragile. Like it had bled out through a slit in reality. It came from behind the generator. I didn't move. Didn't speak. You're not supposed to be here. This time, the voice was right next to my ear. Like it had bent time and space just to crawl beside me. My body acted before my brain did. I bolted. Sprinted through the icy halls with adrenaline burning my veins. I slammed the control room door and locked it behind me, collapsing into the chair like I'd been shot. My hands trembled violently. I could barely type. I sat there, paralyzed, until the sun bled pale light across the horizon. Later that morning, Dr. Ellis strolled in like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't just had a conversation with something not human in the dark. I told him everything. The missing fifth hum. The whisper. The voice right beside me. He didn't blink. Just rubbed his jaw and said, flatly, "You only heard 4 hums?" "Yes," I said. And something whispered. Twice. He looked disturbed. Not shocked. Not confused. Just disturbed, like someone who'd seen this pattern unfold before. "That's concerning," he muttered. "Did it touch you?" The question nearly stopped my heart. "No," I said. He nodded slowly. "Then you're still okay. But if it talks to you again..." He paused, then locked eyes with me. "Do not answer it." I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to know there could be a next time. But quitting wasn't an option. Not without losing everything. So I forced myself to stay. In hindsight, that choice sealed my fate. 2 nights later, it happened. I broke a rule. Not on purpose. Not out of rebellion or carelessness. It happened because something changed the rules. And from that moment on, I was no longer a watcher. I had become the watched. The cameras started showing rooms that didn't exist. Doors open on their own. And at 1:11 a.m., something knocked. From inside the observation room. I didn't mean to break the rule. But I did. And what came out when I opened that door wasn't human. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, make sure to subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and lets me bring you even more stories like this. Your support means the world. The hallway lights flickered again. Rule 2. That should have been my cue. Freeze, hold my breath, become a statue and wait for it to pass. And I did. At first. But then, my radio hissed. A burst of static snapped through the silence like lightning through still water. "Mason. Mason, come to the observation room. Emergency. Come quick." It was Ellis. Or, at least, it sounded like him. Instinct took over. I gasped, just once. A sharp inhale. A human reaction to panic. The air burned as it filled my lungs. I hadn't meant to breathe. I just did. And worse, I'd moved. My body had tensed, my hand twitching toward the radio before I remembered the rule. I had broken it. Everything went silent. So silent that even my heartbeat felt intrusive. And then, the lights turned red. Not dim. Not off. Red, like blood soaking through snow. I hadn't even known the facility could do that. A high-pitched ringing bled through the hallway outside the control room, an unnatural tone, like glass grinding against teeth. I turned to the monitors, already knowing I wouldn't like what I saw. Every hallway was black. Swallowed in shadow. Except one. On that screen, something was crawling. It didn't walk. It didn't even stagger. It crawled, rapid and erratic, like a centipede that had just been set on fire. Its limbs moved too fast, bending the wrong way, jittering like a corrupted video file. And then it stopped. Right outside my door. I didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't even think. I just sat there, paralyzed, praying to gods I'd stopped believing in. Then the scratching began. Slow. Methodical. Not random, but intentional. Like it was carving something. Claw by claw, stroke by stroke. I could feel it, etching madness into the metal. Marking me. Morning came. Eventually. Though I didn't remember the sun rising. It just happened. I cracked the door open, expecting claw marks, evidence, something. But there was nothing. The door was smooth. Stainless. Untouched. As if the night had been nothing more than a hallucination. But I knew better. Because something in me had cracked. A hairline fracture in the mind. A splinter in the soul. My sanity hadn't just bent, it had started to bleed. I found Ellis in the lab, sipping coffee like it was just another day in hell. But I didn't wait this time. I slammed my fist on the table. What the hell is this place? I demanded. What are we really researching? He looked older than he had the day before. Not just tired, withered. Like each night had stolen a year from his face. He sighed. That kind of long, heavy sigh people give when they're about to dump a truth that shatters you. We're not researching. Not anymore. He paused. Looked me dead in the eye. We're containing. That word hung in the air like a curse. Containing what? I asked. He didn't answer, not with words. Instead, he slid a thick manila folder across the table. Inside were photographs, black and white, low resolution, wrong. Figures that defied anatomy. Blurred silhouettes with too many joints, no eyes, too many mouths. One looked like a shadow with bones. Another, like a pile of spines floating in smoke. I didn't realize I was shaking until I heard the photos rattle in my hands. We call them residuals, Ellis said. They're not ghosts. Not aliens. We don't know what they are. He gestured around at the facility. But the Arctic seems to attract them. Maybe it's the cold. Maybe the isolation. Maybe something older than both. We built this place to keep them here. To keep the rules in place. I asked the question I already dreaded the answer to. And if the rules are broken? He didn't hesitate. Then they get out, or get in. I didn't sleep that day. Couldn't. Even when I closed my eyes, I could see the thing scratching at the door. Could feel its presence, like its memory had seeped into the wiring. That night was my last. The last night at Black Hollow. And the worst. Because I was no longer just following the rules. I was about to become part of them. When the lights went out completely, no red, no flicker, just darkness. I realized something had changed. The station wasn't trying to keep them contained anymore. It was trying to keep me in. My last night at Black Hollow was the worst. There's no clever metaphor to dress it up. It wasn't loud. It wasn't bloody. It was personal. Because the thing I saw that night was me. At exactly 3:03 a.m., I turned to camera 6, like I had every night before. My fingers trembled, hovering over the keyboard like they already knew something was waiting. The feed buzzed softly, flickered, then sharpened. It was the same room, the same white-walled storage unit with metal racks and that single, humming light overhead. But this time, there was someone inside. Not a stranger. Not a shadow. It was me. Same uniform. Same posture. Same face. But the eyes. Gone. 2 black pits that swallowed the screen. Not just blank, hungry. And the mouth. It stretched wide. Too wide. The grin was unnatural, full of teeth that didn't belong to me. Long, sharp. Smiling like it knew exactly what I feared. Then, slowly, my reflection, my fake self, tilted its head. Like a curious dog trying to understand the noise of a dying animal. And it raised one finger to its lips. That was all. No movement. No sound. Just silence and that horrific, knowing grin. I stared. I could not. My breath caught in my throat, and I could feel tears starting behind my eyes, not from fear. From recognition. Some part of me knew. Then, in a blink, it vanished. I didn't wait for protocol. Didn't wait for Ellis. Didn't wait to see what the rules would demand next. I packed my bag with shaking hands, every zipper scream echoing through the metal halls like alarms. Then I walked to the helipad and sat down. I didn't move. Didn't think. Just waited, like a body waiting for burial. Eventually, The chopper emerged from the horizon, its blades slicing the sky like they were trying to escape it too. The pilot landed but said nothing at first. He just looked at me. Then at the facility. Then back at me. His face was grim. Like he'd done this before. Too many times. Then he asked one question. "You followed the rules?" I nodded once. He stared at me a moment longer. Then said, "Then don't talk about what you saw. Not to anyone. Ever." The flight back felt unreal. Outside the window, the Arctic stretched endlessly, just blank whiteness swallowing the world. And Black Hollow shrank into the distance, disappearing into the nothing like a dream you're glad to forget, but never really do. I didn't speak. And neither did the pilot. Because there are no words for what we left behind. Only rules. That was 2 years ago. I tried to build a life again. A job. An apartment. People. Structure. Routine. But some nights, I still wake up. Always at the same time. 3:03 a.m. And when I do, I never look directly in the mirror right away. Because once, just once, I did. And I saw myself blink. But I hadn't blinked. That thing in the mirror. It blinked first. Now I keep the lights on at night. I follow little rituals. I whisper rules under my breath before bed. Just in case. Because sometimes, I wonder if I ever really left Black Hollow. Or if Black Hollow just followed me. Some places don't want to be left behind. And some rules aren't meant to be broken. Because they're the only thing keeping you from being replaced. Hey. Thanks for listening. If that story gave you chills, imagine what's coming next. Hit subscribe, drop a like, and share it with someone who thinks they're brave enough. We'll see you in the next nightmare.